So I'd like you to put your hands together and welcome David Hall.
I never knew my grandfather. He was 48 when he died, but by all accounts he was an extraordinary man. My father would tell me many stories about his wonderful adventures, one of which was that in the 1920s he toured the music halls as a teenage magician. And in later life he had a party trick whereby he'd have a card selected, signed, dated, returned to the middle of the deck, and then he'd take the deck and throw it against the wall or the ceiling, and the selected card would leap out of the deck and stick to the surface. And when I got interested in magic, my father was desperate for me to learn how it was done, or tell him how this was performed, and I never got round to it. And unfortunately last year it was too late because my dad died. And when I was going through his house and clearing out his things, I found this, which is my grandfather's 1920s performance case. And in it was a journal that he kept during those years. And here he describes how he first got interested in magic. He was taken as a boy to the Palace Theatre in Manchester to see Nate Leipzig perform. Now Nate Leipzig was an international magical superstar who at the time rivaled Houdini. Now in his description, there's an entry for that day, he describes an effect of Leipzig's which I'd like to try and recreate here if I may. Now Leipzig was famous for performing, just move my granddad there, for performing with everyday objects rather than large stage props. And here we have 2 wine glasses, a handkerchief and a brand new deck of cards. Now the most difficult part of any card trick is actually removing the cellophane, so I'm going to do that for you. But what I'd like you to do, Chris, if you would, is just check that that seal is intact and that is indeed a brand new deck of cards. Consider your answer very carefully. Thank you. Right, so this is a brand new deck of cards. That means that this is the first time these cards have seen the light of day since they left the factory. And when a deck comes into the light, it comes out in what we call new deck order. You start with the jokers, then you've got the spades, the ace through to king, then the ace through to king of hearts, and then it reverses and you come to the king of diamonds, and it counts down all the way down to the clubs, and then you get this advertising card which no one knows what to do with, so we throw it away. Now we're not going to use the entire deck, we're going to use the first 10 black cards, which are the ace through to 10 of spades. And being a new deck, this is in precisely order ace through to 10. And I'm going to put those cards in that order, in that wine glass, and cover it with this handkerchief. Now, taking the equivalent 10 red cards, the ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of hearts, these two, obviously, are in order. But that's something we're going to change. Now, Chris, I'm going to use a lot, but give those a really, really thorough shuffle, if you would. Because once you shuffle a pack of 10 cards, you end up with 1.2 million possible variations. That's 10 times 9 times 8 times 7, etc. So you're happy with your shuffle? Okay. Do you know which of those 1.2 million orders you could have actually achieved? No, well let's find out. You have here the 5, the 8, the ace, the 10, the 9, the 3, the 4, the 6, the 2, the 7. So that is Chris's unique order. Now we're going to make this even more difficult for myself. What I'm going to do is, if I could, Kevin, I'm going to run my finger across the top here. I'd like you to say stop whenever you want. Okay? We're going to do it again. I'm going to run my finger across the top. You say stop whenever you want.
Stop.
Okay, so we came to that card there. So that card is the 4 of hearts. Now I'm going to reverse that 4 of hearts in precisely the place that you shuffled. So this is now actually a 1 in 12 million. We've multiplied the odds by 10. And in that order, I'm going to put those in that glass. Now, while you were shuffling and you were choosing, no one has been near these cards here. And as you can see, the ace is at the front, And here, the 5 is at the front and the 5 is somewhere in the middle of the glass. So, watch very carefully, because in the merest of seconds, the cards reorder themselves. So here, the 5 is at the front, behind the 5 is the 8, and here, the 8 is behind the 5. And behind the 8 is the aces. Behind the aces are the 10s. Behind the 10s are the 9s. Behind the 9s are the 3s. And behind the 3s, there are 2 reverse cards. Now, if I remember, Kevin, you said the 4 should turn, and the 4 has turned. Thank you. Finally, the 7. And all the cards reorder themselves in precisely. Now, that trick so bewildered and delighted my grandfather that he decided that he wanted to perform magic, but unfortunately he didn't know any magic. All he knew was an urchin's trick with an old bootlace. So, but nevertheless, what he did was he went back to the Palace Theatre in Manchester and he started performing for the people queuing at the box office. And I would like to try and recreate that scene, if I may. So Chris, would you come up here and just stand here? And Tanya, who I've spoken to before, just here, Chris, I think a little bit of space here. Just stand there, and I'm going to play my 15-year-old grandfather outside the Palace Theatre in Manchester. Hello, madam. Hello, sir. How are you? Good. Would you like to see something a little different while you're waiting? Yeah. Excellent. Here, I've got this old bootlace. Check that. That's not a trick bootlace, is it? I don't know what a trick bootlace looks like, but that is one of them. No, that's a solid. And here I have a gold ring. Don't ask me where we got it. It's my mother's. She's still looking for it. All right. So, now, I'll take this gold ring, put it on the string. Watch very carefully. My job's a bit difficult. Yours is the easy. Keep your eye on the ring. I've got to get it off the string. Now, getting it off is actually quite easy. It's putting it back on that's a bit more difficult. Now, some people don't even think the ring's on the string. But you can see it is right there, dangling. Others insist, Tanya, that I hold on to these ends of the string really tightly. So if you hold out your hand, and we put the ring right there, close it right round it, that's really tight, that's not going anywhere, is it? Now let go gently. Now we're engaged. Anyway, now, that was dodgy. People say it was dodgy. You were holding both ends of the string. So this time, we're going to try and make it even more difficult. Tanya, you hold that one. Chris, you hold that end, that end. Right, now when I say 3, not too tight, so 3, give it a yell. 1, 2, 3, bang! And the ring comes right through. Now you have to be double jointed to do this, Chris, and I'm not, so let me put my fingers back into place. Ow, 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 ow. Thank you very much. We'll do it one more time, completely impossibly. Right, so the string goes through the ring, slide it along. Now, Tanya, what we're going to do is put a knot in it. Take that end, you take that end, Chris. There's the knot, 1, 2, 3, pull, and it comes right through, and the knot is still there. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And then you hand those back and collect a few coppers. Thank you, madam, and scarper before a few coppers arrive. Someone's given me a £0.5, thank you. Right. Now, it was while he was performing this outside the Palace Theatre in Manchester, he was seen by a man called Will Murray. Now, Will Murray was a music hall impresario who had a gang show called Casey's Court, which toured from 1900 to 1950 and famously launched the careers of Charlie Chaplin in 1906 and Stan Laurel in 1911. Now, Will Murray saw my grandfather perform at Palace Theatre in Manchester out in the streets and asked him if he'd like to join Casey's Court. He said yes, in a shot. And for the next few years, he toured the music halls, watching magicians from the wings, learning his act, building his act, until at the age of 19, he was headlining for Casey's Court as Sammy the Magical Boy. And he describes this act, and in his journal he says he would finish his act with that party trick that so enraptured my father. And if I could, I'll try and finish my act with the same effect. Now, just recapping, if you remember, there is a card selected. So I'm going to trouble Chris again because I asked Chris to move up. Chris, would you pop up here and pick a card? Try and pick a spot card rather than a face card so that we can see you write your name and a date on it. Thank you very much. If you take that, write your name and a date on it, today's date preferably, Chris, and then if you would, show it to the audience, because this effectively makes this a completely unique card. Thank you. Chris. Marvellous, thank you very much. That's all you have to do. Sit down now. So, a big round of applause for Chris, if we may. So, what we have is Chris's card here, and I'm going to turn it over and put it into the middle, right there. And if you would just slide it into the middle, sir, so it's right in the middle. And I'm not going to have any holes or breaks or whatever, that's clean. Now, at this point, my grandfather says in his journal, he would entomb the deck in a gum band. And I had no idea what a gum band was, so I googled it. And it turns out that a gum band is an everyday rubber band. So what I've got here is an everyday rubber band. If you would just check that, that's not a trick rubber band, it's not a magical rubber band, that is communal garden gum band. Yes? Yeah. Thank you. Now, so at this point, my grandfather would entomb the deck of cards in a gum band. So let's recap. Card has been selected, card has been signed, card has been dated, card has been returned to the middle of the deck. Deck has now been entombed in a gum band. At this point, my grandfather would throw the cards against the ceiling, the selected card would leap out of the middle and adhere to the surface. Okay. Come on. Oh, fuck! He always hated me. Anyway, thank you very much for letting me tell you that story.